Citizen Talks is a podcast series featuring discussions with humanitarians, activists, artists, and changemakers, exploring the global humanitarian issues that shape our society, the world at large.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Citizen Talks. I'm your host Minkailu, and today we are joined by Ash Dykes, extreme athlete and explorer. Ash, thank you so much for being with us here
Thanks
today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here, man.
So, for those members of our audience who may not be familiar with what you do, can you tell us a bit about yourself and exactly what it is?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a long story, but breaking it down. So effectively, for the past 15 years now, I've completed 5 world first records. And so started off early, leaving at 19. You know, I thought I didn't want to go the university direction. So I actually ended up doing college, saving as much money as I could in a fish and chip shop, as a lifeguard, as a waiter. Set off for travels with minimal budget, started doing a lot of different adventures, a lot of reckless, sometimes illegal adventures that really sort of, that naivety I kind of needed to get to where I am right now.
Yeah, you need those sometimes.
Yeah, you need
those
that.
Ones.
And then I settled in Thailand as a Muay Thai fighter and a scuba diving instructor, earning money enough to pay rent. But I would say the career started with the world first record, in which in 2014 I became the first recorded person ever to hike completely solo and completely unsupported across the entire length of Mongolia. So it was 3 weeks over the Altyn mountains, 5 weeks across the Gobi Desert, and then a further 3 weeks up through the Mongolian steppe, pulling a trailer weighing 18 stone or 120 kilograms or 260 pounds in the US, in a trailer carrying everything that I needed to survive. And this was, again, you know, reckless, you know, no sort of insurance, low budget, no evacuation, but that was the career setter. And then from there, the expeditions started to get bigger and better. Madagascar was one of them, where I was attempted to be the first to hike the entire length. And during that 155-day journey, you know, I was held up at gunpoint by the military. I contracted the deadliest strain of malaria. I had to avoid the bandits by hiding in the jungle. I had to hunt, I had to gather. I was bitten by leeches, bitten by spiders, crossing crocodile-infested rivers. It was insane. It was a lot. But we kept growing. We kept getting bigger and better.
Yeah. So, for a person like myself, like maybe you would call me a normie.
Right.
I hear about this kind of stuff, you know, doing all these things.
Yeah,
and for me, it begs the question, why?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what exactly was it that motivated you to pursue these kinds of activities and get involved in this type of stuff?
It's long. I don't think I'll ever be able to really identify the true motivation. I would say it was an accumulation of lots of different things that probably happened, lots of different things that I heard, that I seen, that I watched. It could have been watching documentaries as a kid. You know, it would have been seeing, you know, photos of maybe the Great Wall of China within magazines. It would have been certain stories that I heard and always thinking I don't want to just hear them. I want to go out there amongst it and create those unique experiences for myself. And I remember being in college, you know, I had to be there, the teachers sort of teaching away, lecturing us all. And I wasn't really taking a lot in. I think it was in college that I realized I was a kinesthetic learner, you know, learning far more through hands-on practical experience, making mistakes and learning from that mistake. And at that point, I was kind of like, how can I develop this way of learning in myself? What's the best possible way to advance myself, to face adversity, to grow as a person? And for me, it was to meet new people, meet different cultures, learn different traditions, push myself physically, mentally on these different adventures. But I was also very competitive, so I really loved sports. I was very athletic as a kid. So I was kind of like, you know, how can I mix in sort of these my passion and curiosity for the world and cultures and traditions and meeting people from all over the planet, but also mix that in with the competitive spirit.
Well, you decided, I think literally it's you versus the world.
Yeah, it's almost
kind of
like
just
that.
take it all on.
Yeah. And then each thing I did, I realized that I was far more capable than I gave myself credit for. I think that's probably most of us as people, you know. And each thing that I did, I left thinking, I think I could have pushed further. I think we can go one bigger, one better.
Right.
And it's a strange passion to like, really, isn't it? Facing adversity, being down and under. There's many times that I've almost died, and the hiking, I've done a lot of walking. It's funny to say I actually don't really like walking, despite how much hiking I've done. It's the objects and the challenges and overcoming them that really excites me, and the massive reward of like getting to the end. I think it's like that with any sport, isn't it? Boxing, UFC, sprinting, the grind and the training, the build up to it, it's always very painful. But when it pays off, you cross the finish line in the fastest time, or you're the first person to summit Mount Everest, or you win that fight in the octagon, that makes it all worth it.
It reminds me of a T.S. Elliott quote. I think it's something like, only those who are willing to risk going too far will ever figure out how far they can actually go, something of this nature.
So
I'm
true.
paraphrasing, but
it's
very interesting. So I want to actually ask about something that you mentioned there, which is the training aspect.
Yes.
Especially when you first started, right? When you didn't really even know necessarily what you had to be able to do. Like how did you prepare for this kind of endeavor?
It's a tough one because there's no real way to train for it.
Yeah.
How do you train to pull 18 stone in a desert cart through the middle of the Gobi Desert for 5 weeks, solo and unsupported? And I found that the best way to prepare for that, whilst it's super important to prepare physically, the most crucial part was the mental aspect. Because I remember with Mongolia, I bring it back to Mongolia because that was my first big one.
Right.
I had a lot of fear.
Right.
I was really scared, genuinely. I felt very vulnerable. There was a guy who had attempted it 3 times and he failed on all 3 accounts. And he was a Navy soldier, a desert explorer. And of course, I'd never been to a desert before. I was effectively a beach bum, Muay Thai fighter, scuba diver, living in Thailand. I hadn't faced anything like this. So I did sort of overplay in my mind all of the worst case scenarios. And then when I was in Mongolia, I realized that I was actually preparing by thinking of worst case scenario. I would scare myself so much that if I was thinking of worst case scenario and worst case was unfortunately bound to happen when I was out there, at least I'd somewhat be mentally prepared enough to tackle it because it came as something I anticipated. It didn't come as like shock, like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. Let's slip into flight and then I fail. But at the same time, it's important to prepare physically. And I was doing a lot of boxing, I was doing a lot of Muay Thai. I actually gave up my life in Thailand, moved back to the UK, to Wales, moved in with my parents. I had no more than £200 in my account. Couldn't afford gym membership. Had my uncle drop me off a tractor tyre because he was a lorry driver. And in my mum and dad's back garden, I was training for something that had never been completed using a tractor tyre and a sledgehammer in the snow. And I think that preparation physically prepared me enough also mentally to
that's an insane amount of agency, man, to like execute your will upon the world like that and just do these kinds of things. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into that, the psychological aspect of this, right? So one of the things that you did was you walked the entire length of the Yangtze River, right? Like 4,000 miles, something of this nature.
Yeah, that's right.
Over almost a year.
Yes.
Obviously there's a lot of physical challenge there. We'll just assume it physically extremely challenging. But like what kinds of psychological states do you experience over the course of a year? Going through this kind of thing, like what was that like? It's
a good question actually, because a lot of people don't really touch about the, psychological aspect of a journey that takes, as you said, nearly 352 days it took to complete that journey, and it was a huge emotional roller coaster for so many reasons. I think one of them. In fact, it was Mission Yangtze, like that Yangtze River walk from source to sea across China, that actually had me ask why I'm doing this. What am I doing this for again?
I feel like you would have to get to that question at some point along the course of
it's going to pop up, isn't it? I think Mongolia, I never did ask myself that. Madagascar, I didn't either, even though the biggest near deaths were probably experienced in Mongolia and Madagascar. But the Yangtze, I remember so many things going wrong so soon, just to break it down. I remember 10 days in to that journey, it was already a failed attempt to get to the source. I had already at that point lost 5 members of the team. I was already interrogated and questioned, pulled in by the authorities 4 times.
Wow.
We were already facing minus 20 degrees Celsius. We were at altitudes higher than Mount Everest base camp. It was bear hunting season because we picked the time that we were delayed. So now the bears were actively coming off the mountains, searching for calories before they go into torpor, which is their version of hibernation. And we were actively followed by a pack of wolves for 2 days. Now all of that happened, and I'm 10 days into a 352-day journey.
Yeah.
And that was enough to crush me psychologically quite a bit, to ask the question, like, you know, I hold 2 world first records. Who am I? What am I proving? Am I proving this to myself? Am I proving it to the world? Why am I here again? I remember having a bit of signal on my sat phone, speaking to my dad, and I told him everything that had just happened. And my guide has now been taken by the police, and now he's got to ride 20 miles within an hour and a half to get back to us before sunsets, because he has no tent, no nothing. It's just him and a horse. Thinking, what am I doing? This is insane. And I think it was almost that.
That was the moment.
Yeah, that was that moment. And I've always been really good at breaking things down. Like, I try not to think of the big picture, because if you think, like, I've got to do this for a year, you will crumble. That will break your spirit.
Okay.
You've got to really day by day. But when all of that's happening, you realise you've not even done 2 weeks. You've got a year left. It's hard not to look at that ultimate goal, you know, and freak out. And I did certainly freak out.
So how did you kind of overcome that and continue?
Honestly, each night, each evening, I told myself tomorrow was another day. I kept telling myself tomorrow will be better, and often tomorrow was always worse.
Yeah.
But it was that psyche for me of telling myself it will get better. And I always like to say that every after every storm is the calm, but it's about how you're able to weather the storm. The storm hasn't come to stay; it's come to pass. So ride on through it. And that was kind of like my psyche, I would say, for that period of time. And then you'd have a week or two where you're like, okay, nice, you get a little bit of a breather. But then you're faced with, obviously, the other psychological aspect, which is this is lonely.
Yeah.
I remember having a UK photographer flown out who joined me. He was looking to join me for 3 weeks, which lifted my morale, because I was like, yes, you know, I get to have conversations, not with myself, you know, I get to talk to someone. He lasted 6 hours on day one before he was sent home. He was like member number 7 that was evacuated.
Wow.
And so that was hard, because like that, I was back on my own again, worrying about the threat of the bears, the wolves, the Tibetan mastiffs, which are kind of like the guard dogs to all of the.
Yeah.
You know, it was it's a lot. It's a lot.
Wow. That's very interesting. So why was it so important for you to like document that entire process? I think, you know, over the course of the year, you had like a billion people kind of follow along with your sort of journey. So yeah. What was the idea behind that? What did you want to do with that documentation? Like having it all out there, making sure that people were kind of able to observe.
Yeah, it was a number of things. So with Mongolia. So with all of the previous adventures that I did, I wasn't sharing them at all. So there was no social media. I wasn't on Twitter, Instagram. There was nothing. And then with Mongolia, again, I was just doing it for the pure passion.
Yeah.
Madagascar again. And then it was only after Mongolia and Madagascar that people who heard my story took inspiration from it, and all of these messages started to generate. Not only that, I was able to partner with some really good causes, like the Lemur Network Conservation in Madagascar, and then the Red Cross for Mongolia. So I was actually hiking across Mongolia, also shedding light on climate change and the effects that it has on the nomadic way of life, and the suffering that the outside world really don't see apart from the people living within Mongolia. So I thought, hold on, if I can make a way to make an expedition interactive, line up the right causes to give back and to help out, whether it's raising money or raising awareness, then that's going to be better. So it's worthwhile me trying to make this as global as possible on an impact scale. And so I partnered up with the right satellite communications and from source to sea along the Yangtze. And there's pros and cons with sharing a journey like that. But yeah, I did make it my main goal to make it one of the most interactive world first journeys, so that I could get stuff out there, live time photos, videos, blogs, you know, partnering with different organizations or different environmentalists along the way to be able to share, but to also have it documented, which we were documented for National Geographic which it aired, I think, 6 months to 12 months after completion of that expedition.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So, something that comes to my mind, I think the average person kind of struggles with just the like minutia of daily life, let alone something like extreme, being an extreme athlete.
Yeah.
So what kind of insights do you feel like you gained from this experience or from these experiences in terms of, overcoming adversity, perseverance, etc., that are applicable to people in their daily lives, beyond just like platitudes, right? Like what did you really walk away with that you were like, okay, this is something that it's a universal human experience, and with this you can, I think, get through anything.
Yeah. I think it is that underlying feeling that I don't truly believe we know how long we can keep going and what we're capable of. And I think if we stay persistent and push on through the mundane, through the difficulties, if we get back up after facing setbacks or, knockdowns, each time, although it is grim, you learn so much more about yourself. And again, I always believe in that saying, the more uncomfortable you make yourself, the more comfortable you'll become. And for me as a youngster, I kind of knew, for one, this life will go fast, and two, how best can I prepare myself to face difficulties that we all will face in life.
Right.
And it was a case of facing adversity, no matter what that looks like, the setbacks, the knockdowns, things that you don't want to do, like the mundane stuff. I think if you stick to it, but you break it down, don't let it overwhelm you. So manage your expectations. And when things do go south, if you can remain enthusiastic and positive during that dark low, you're practically unstoppable. And I noticed the people that joined me out on expeditions, they might not have had a lot of experience, but if they had humor, like a sense of humor, if they were able to smile during the dark times and were able to be enthusiastic during the difficult times, they were the ones that I knew, well, whilst you don't have the experience necessarily, the fact that you're smiling right now,
right,
you're going to go far.
Perspective is important.
Yeah. And I think, we get caught up in our own bubble. It's easy to not talk to people. It's easy to feel sorry for yourself. Whereas I think if you can just not bog yourself down with so many thoughts and just focus on the only option that you have. A perfect example of that was in the middle of the Gobi Desert for myself. I got to a water point, and that water point was dry. I was reliant on that water point. It was on the map work. And I now had to ration the last remaining dribbles of water in 40 plus degrees Celsius, pulling the trailer that was going through soft sand and the wheels were sinking. It now felt like 500 kilograms. My organs were starting to dry up. I was delirious, I was hallucinating, and the only form of shelter was underneath my trailer. And it was at that point I realized if I don't keep getting up from out of my trailer and pushing on, I'm going to die out here in the middle of the Gobi Desert. And I remember for the first, I would say, day or two, which were very wasted days, I would spend over an hour under my trailer each time. I would walk a few hundred meters before I would have to hide from the sun under my trailer again. And I remember feeling sorry for myself. I remember thinking, I didn't prepare for this. This is where that Navy soldier last failed, but he had helicopter evacuation. I don't have that. My only pickup was overland. I've missed the point of pickup, so I don't have that option. And then I started to think of friends. I started to think of family. And I think the longer I stayed in that mode, I would have slipped down that slippery slope, and I most certainly would have died. The alternative of that was to focus on the only option that I did have, which was to get out under the trailer, set myself a routine, break the goal down into lots of mini goals. So instead of 4 days, I'll get to the water source, I focused on 100 meters. I could see 100 meters. So if I could get out from under my trailer in no more than 5 minutes, walk for 100 meters, because that's all I could really manage at that point, especially with the lactic acid buildup, and then hide for another 5 minutes. If I can keep chipping away at those 100 meters, I will get to the water source. And that's all I did. I stopped thinking about, all of these thoughts, emotions, and these feelings, stopped thinking about family and friends, and just focused on the task in hand. And it was that saved my life. And if I can do that in the middle of the Gobi Desert, people can definitely do it in life, around their comforts, they can absolutely only focus on that one thing, you know, to get themselves ahead of the game, to get themselves out from the rut or in the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it's only when you do that, you realize how far you really can go. And you see it all the time. You see it all the time with so many people who are stuck in a dark place and they pull themselves out and it's like, what did you do? And it's like, I just focused. I just cancelled out all the noise. I just focused in. And that's all it ever was. So that would be my thing is, you know, just stay dogged and persistent.
Very interesting, man. I appreciate that insight actually, because I sprained my ankle yesterday. I didn't even want to get up off the couch. I was like, I'm gonna just sit here. It's too much.
Yeah. There you go.
So that's wild. Something that you mentioned is your sort of ecological conservation efforts, things that you're involved in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Man. Yeah, so I've been involved since I would say I was 22. I've been involved with the British Red Cross. I've worked with UNESCO, WWF. I think maybe one of my proudest moments, you know, something that I put way above the world records is actually, you know, that dark time that I caught malaria in Madagascar. I actually returned back to the UK after seeing, you know, I completed the expedition, I cracked on. But when I came back to the UK, I realised that there's an organisation called Malaria No More UK who were trying to end malaria within our lifetime. And I ended up becoming an ambassador for them because I saw the devastation that malaria had on people's lives and families out in Madagascar. After I caught my bout, I was just more aware to the malaria and the damage it causes. And I was able to speak in Westminster, in UK Parliament, and address the Global Fund to try to increase their budget by 20% into the Global Fund. And if they did, we would have secured £1.2 billion, which would have saved 8 million lives over the next 5 years. And as a team effort, we shared our stories and we were successful and we secured that budget and we saw it actively play out. And it's like one of those where I would take a hit from malaria any day to know that I could be the voice for so many people who are suffering and just clearly don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing, the malaria pills to save your life, to get rid of the malaria from within your system are the same price as a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But out in Madagascar, they can't afford a cup of coffee, so they lose their life because of it. So there's that. There's also the Lima Network Conservation that have 60 organisations across the island of Madagascar, and they're helping to protect and preserve all of the unique biodiversity of the island. So it's amazing, again, to see what they're doing.
Nice.
So that Madagascar journey was about spreading awareness about the real unsung heroes, you know, which is them volunteering and risking their lives to make a big impact.
Very nice, very nice. So I don't think that a lot of people have walked the earth to the extent that you have.
Yeah.
And just, you know, obviously, we're not talking, you know, technical numbers here or anything, but just from your observations, moving through such large distances in this world and observing the things around you, you know, in terms of the state of the environment today, from your perspective, what do you think, man? Are we in a good place? Are we in a bad place? Are things as bad as people think they are when you're actually like out there with no one around anywhere? Or is it like, yeah, we're screwed, everything's dying, there's, you know, there's blood in the river, something crazy like this, you know?
It's bad.
It's bad.
It is bad.
Okay.
It is as bad as what people say, but you know, the beauty is there are large parts of the earth that people also aren't. So what I've noticed, perfect example probably would be the Yangtze River in China. You know, you're up in the Tibetan plateau, you're surrounded by local nomads living out there, and of course the environment is just perfect, beautiful.
Yeah.
Closer you get to civilization,
the worse it gets.
Yeah, that's where you see the damage. Where people aren't is like pristine, beautiful areas, and unfortunately people are pretty much everywhere.
Right.
Like I finished my latest expedition in the Amazon rainforest, and we went 37 days. It was in the greenest country on the planet, in Suriname, South America.
Yeah.
We didn't see a single human in 34 days. No tribal communities either. It was pristine.
Yeah.
The wildlife had never seen a human before, so they were acting how they should normally act. In fact, the capybara aren't normally nocturnal, but where there's people, they've been forced into being nocturnal, so they only come out at night time because they're being hunted off by the people.
Right.
Whereas where we were, the upper stretch waters of the Kopanam River, capybara are sleeping at night and out and about gallivanting during the day. You know, jaguar would be stood there for 2 minutes looking at us. It'd never seen a human before. It was curious, you know, are they a threat? What are they? Do I eat them? Are they prey? It didn't know what to do. And it was just amazing that you can go to places like that and know that, okay, these truly wild places do still exist. So it's still really positive, but, you know, people are expanding.
Right. We're only getting bigger.
Yeah, so I just don't know how long these hidden gems will last effectively, as long as they are heavily protected. Like a large part of the Surinamese jungle where we were was a nature reserve that is protected. So hopefully that just continues to expand.
Right.
And I know in Mongolia and China, they are trying to, you know, because of global warming, the desert's expanding. And so they've got this big project called, I think it's called the Green Desert, where they're obviously fighting back and planting more trees to try to grow more vegetation and kind of minimize the Gobi Desert.
Yeah.
So things are being done. You know, there's a big plastic bag ban in China. There's a fishing ban. You know, lots of things are being done, but it's early days. Hard to tell now which direction. And I feel we're on the fence. It's either going to go, you know, this way or that way. And the next 10 years or so, we'll see which way it's definitely heading.
Man.
Which is scary.
Yeah, it is. Well, what can we say? We did it to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think we're coming to our time here. Before we go, are there any last words that you think are important for our audience to know? Anything that you want to leave them with about yourself, about your life, about their lives, anything at all?
Yeah, you know, I think it would probably be to do what it is you truly want to do, not what anyone else wants you to do or what you think other people might want you to do. Stop sticking by society norms. You know, you've got this one life. Life does go fairly fast, so it's important that you prioritize your passion as well, and to, you know, enjoy this world we live in, but also to protect it.
Yeah, amazing. So if people want to find out what you're doing, get connected with you,
yes,
where can they do that?
It's
how can they
all
do
there.
that?
It's all just Ash Dykes, and I'm pretty much on all of the social media platforms. We just launched the latest world record on YouTube as well. So that's like an episode a week, every week that we're dropping.
Please, so, please don't break another world record every week. Is that what you're doing?
No, not every week, no, but we are sharing the episodes.
Okay, cool. I was like, Ash Dykes making me feel bad about myself once a week. Okay, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you being here. It's really some very interesting things that you're involved in.
Appreciate it.
So thank you guys for joining us as well in our audience, and we will see you next time on another episode of Citizen Talks.